we can look at mystery. Look, I respect the guy for what he did back in the day. That guy hasn't changed his method. He's not someone that has been experimenting and doing new things and being innovative. Like he's got the exact same method he's had the entire time. Like you can't point to experience over time unless you're actually trying new things and doing new things. Like you could have someone playing chess and they will be the same elo over 10 years if they don't actually try anything or do anything new or
So
different.
listen,
And
Mystery's method is evolved. It has evolved and it is evolving. Wait till you see my method when it drops. I hope you're going to get my book. I'll send you a
what
copy.
I'm so curious
Okay.
because maybe I'm wrong here and I missed something.
Mhm.
What has like drastically evolved or changed from the mystery method in the last like 3, 5 years? I don't even know. Like
Look, in a lot
when
of
recently has
ways,
it changed?
Mystery has a similar thing going on where he has optimized a style of game that works really well for him. Okay.
So my question is, you said it's like always evolving and changing.
Yeah,
Like
it's
over the last like 3 years, how much has it evolved and
he's
changed?
continually optimizing and refining a system that works very well for him. Okay.
But like what has it, I'm curious, like what has he changed then in the last like 3 years?
Okay, so before we get into that, hold on a second. I'm getting derailed from a point I wanted to make. What was I going to say a second ago? Give me 1 second. Mm.
I mean, we can get
Okay,
back to that.
no, no,
I
no.
don't mind.
Listen,
Like,
you're bringing up mystery right now. Okay, as
hmm
far as I'm concerned, the majority of guys that I've talked to, the majority of guys with game, whether it's natural game or guys that are really good at technical game or a fusion, right? I play a fusion of technical and natural game. Okay, which it sounds like you probably do too. I don't know. Maybe you have your specific techniques you do, but you probably freestyle a little bit, right? The majority of guys that I know, when they're going to escalate fast, are doing it similar to how I'm doing it, where they will go out, they will laugh their way all the way to the bedroom. It's fun, it's
yeah, and I think it's
adventure, and
inefficient.
they
That's
laugh
my point though.
their way all the way to the bedroom. If they do sexualize the interaction, they're going to sexualize it sort of in doses. Maybe they'll make a bold leap. There's definitely the bold leap, let's really throw a wrench in the gear and say something naughty here. But the whole like I'm going to just sexualize early and then just talk her into a different state of mind is not what most guys are doing with credentials. I'm sorry. I don't hear
Yeah,
many
I agree. Most
credentials.
guys don't know what they're doing. I agree. Like we're pointing to credentials here. Bringing it back to my point is like you're saying your credentials are like many years coaching. That doesn't matter if we're not like changing or adapting or innovating. And you pointed to someone like
I'm not
Mystery. My
saying about
question is
those
like
are
with
my
Mystery over the
credentials.
last 3 years, how much has he innovated or changed?
Wait a second. I'm not saying my credentials are just that, right? My arguments are standing on their own 2 feet.
Okay,
If
well,
somebody didn't know anything about
how?
either of us and just listened to our arguments on their face value, I believe that my arguments are standing pretty strong on their own 2 feet. Your
Okay,
argument is my way works and you just don't know because you've never tried it, basically.
that's one of my arguments, correct. I also explained why it works and how it works, but your argument against that was
The
I've
argument you're
tried
making
it.
right now is basically, well, you just never tried it.
Yes, because I brought this up because I gave the merits to my argument, and your opposition to that was I've tried it. I've been coaching for 19 years. I've done all styles of game, and this is what I find is best. Then I said, no, well, that's not true. You haven't tried my style of game.
But
And then
I've
I brought it
agreed.
back to
I have
mystery.
though. But wait a second. I have
In the
agreed with
last
you,
three
Marcus.
years, how much has
Wait,
mystery
wait,
innovated?
hold on a second. Hold on
You're
a
not going to
second.
answer the question.
First of all, I think that question is irrelevant. I will answer the question in a second if you want me to, but I also
I
don't
do,
think I'm
yeah.
going to sit here and air my sensei's dirty laundry and tell you all the things that I like and dislike about his method because I'm not mystery. You
No,
know what
I'm
I
not
mean?
asking. I'm not
Uh,
asking you to
so
add to it. You just said that like um, you guys have been innovating and changing and tried a lot of different things. And my point is, I don't think you have. And someone like Mystery, I think is a great example that everyone kind of knows. Like everyone, I think in the chat would probably know he's stuck in his ways. Like he created a system a long time ago, which I think for the time was super innovative and I think was great. And he's done a lot for the pickup space. I think that's awesome and I respect him. But I think we all know he's stuck in his ways. He hasn't evolved or adapted. And I mean, the biggest thing is what we're actually talking about now, which is like the slow escalation. Is thinking you have to wait all
dude,
these hours before you change
I
when you don't
have
have
a
to.
section in my book that talks about fast escalation. It's called Path Two. So I outline basically 5 different paths, okay, that we can go down. And Path Two is where we build lots of attraction. We shave off just enough of what I call element two, a psychological bond, so where she feels trusting and comfortable with us. Okay, we interject element three, physical touch, and also spatial awareness, and we also pump emotional buying temperature. Okay, so path two is outlined in my book, right? Um,
Okay, so
where
are
was it?
we going to admit that mystery hasn't innovated
But
in the
no, no,
last
no. Here's where I was going to say. Forgive me. This is what I was going to say. I've basically not disagreed with a lot of what you've said, though. You're sitting here talking about how you will come from the frame that sex is good. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. That's great. If you can verbalize that to a woman in a smooth way, that's great. I've done it as well. Okay. You think in all my years in the game, I've never had a conversation with a woman or thought, it might be a good idea to sort of tell her that I'm open-minded and not going to judge her. How can I go about doing this? Maybe I can tell a story about another woman, for example, that was afraid of being judged. So instead of telling her directly, hey, you shouldn't feel judged around me for sexual whatever, right? Can I tell a story and say, hey, I have a buddy, Mike, that went out with some girl and he made her feel a certain way. He made her feel judged, right? Or he went out with somebody and the reverse, where the woman was feeling like she was going to be judged, but he's super open-minded. He's my buddy Mike, he doesn't give a shit. Can you sort of shirk blame a little bit? Like that's
And even
another way
that
of going about
feels
it.
like, to be honest, even that feels super passive to me. Like if I'm with a girl and I'm trying to convey to her that I don't want her to be judged around sex, and then I'm like, yeah, so yeah, you wouldn't believe what happened last week. Yeah, like my buddy Mike, he met this girl, and um, yeah, at first like she felt a little bit like judged around sex, but he was like super open-minded, he didn't mind. Then they went home together, they had a great night. Like it just like you can correct me if that's not how you tell the story.
No,
Like I'm
no,
not
no.
trying to
That's
do it
that's
for
fair, right? What we're talking about
But
is directness level. So you're a fan of doing more direct style of game. I'm saying
but
there's a
that would
spectrum. There's an indirect,
Yeah, but my
direct
point is
spectrum.
there is a
Mhm.
spectrum, and there's a part of that spectrum that's optimal, and you're not on that part is my point. Like being that indirect with Mike, number one, if I'm the girl, I'm like, why is he talking about his friend Mike hooking up with some girl? Like that just feels kind of weird. And then number two, I want to show her that I'm not judgmental. I just want to tell her, like, yeah, listen, I don't give a fuck, right? Yeah, I've had a lot of sex. I think sex is awesome. Like, there's no issue with that. You say that, it feels so much more direct and confident to this girl than going on like a weird tangent that honestly, it's not that exciting of a story where you're trying to convey like openness to the girl.
Here's where
I
I'll
don't
agree
think
with
that's enough.
you.
I'd just be like way more direct with her.
Here's where I'll agree with you. Okay. I do believe that it's optimal to give the woman large doses of our true personality early on, right? We talked a lot about calibration, right? Calibrating to what we think the girl's comfort levels are and so forth. I like calibrating to a woman off the open because a lot of times women are a little guarded. Who's this guy? So calibrate a little bit off the open, although there's also the opener that's just really direct and setting a precedent of this is who I am, like it or not. Okay. But regardless, whether I'm calibrating a little bit off the open or not, I am a fan of giving the woman large doses of who I am, as opposed to what does this woman want and how do I now fit myself into that mold to try to get her. So, what I do think is optimized about your style is you're saying, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I'm a sexual dude. I like, being really direct and sexual and so forth. So, in a way, your method is optimized for that reason, for the reason that you are owning who Marcus is. That
No,
is
no,
an
it's
optimized.
not even how I say it. I'm sorry. Like, I'll only clarify this. It's not how I say it. I don't come in and just say like, listen, I'm a sexual guy and I'm gonna be sexual and like this is who I am, right?
That's your
That's not
frame.
kind
That's
of
those are that's in your head. That's the frame you're coming from, though.
no, yes, kind of actually, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're correct there. The frame is I'm a very masculine, dominant, attractive man. I'm not scared of sex. I think all women love sex. I think under the right circumstances, all girls will want to have a great sexual experience. That is my mindset. Yeah, you're right.
I listen. That is, in my opinion, awesome because you are owning who you are, right? So in
Yeah,
that
but it's not
regard,
about
it's
owning who I am.
optimized.
I think, to be honest, if I had a student that said, hey, do you know what, Marcus? I actually think it's bad if women have sex or want to have sex. I don't think they should want to. I think it probably means they're like super slutty and they're probably not going to be as loyal, make a good partner. If I had a guy come to me and tell me that, my heuristic here, like my teaching isn't just be your honest self. Like that's not what I'm about. I'm about learning how to be the best version of yourself. And if you have some fucked up mindsets like that, I'm going to correct them. And I'm going to come in and tell that student that, like, hey, no, you're wrong. Like, every girl is sexual. Every girl has desires. That's irrelevant of like how good of a person she is. So you could have a girl that is incredibly loyal, that has a good relationship around sex, doesn't have a high late count. You can still have an amazing interaction with her, alleviate some of the negative beliefs that she might have, and still have like an incredible first night experience with her. And that could lead to a relationship. So I would actually change that mindset. It's not about me saying like, I just be yourself and like be unapologetically like who you are. I think if unapologetically who you are is not attractive, that's something that kind of needs to change, to be
So
honest.
that's a great frame. These are all great frames that I'm hearing, right? A frame is a belief, accurate or not, about the underlying meaning of an interaction if we're going to look at a micro level frame, or if we're looking at macro level frames, these are good paradigms to have. They're basically little spells that we cast upon ourselves. They're beliefs, accurate or not, right? On a micro level or macro level about the meaning of an interaction or about life more in totality. And they are behaviors that flow from that belief. Okay. So these beliefs that you have, if you hold them very strongly, there are women that will fall into that frame. And when the woman actually is sexual and you are masculine and dominant and so forth, it's no longer a frame, it's just the reality, right? But I don't believe that these frames are accurate for every single person. Reality is the ultimate frame. Reality is the ultimate spell. So, are all women sexual? No, I think we know that by science that they're not. If you take a female mammal
Hang
and you
on,
strip,
hang
no,
on,
no, no,
hang on.
no, wait, let me finish real quick.
Okay,
If
okay.
you strip all social conditioning and all of a woman's background and memories and so forth out of her head, and she's just there in her purely, physical form, she's a biological machine, right? She feels blood flowing to certain areas when they're stimulated. She's a biological machine. But when you add in social programming and her upbringing and so forth, everything that society has shaped her to be, she may not be sexual. She may not be
What?
as open to sex.
Hang on, what's your definition of not sexual? Maybe I'm just like semantically got it wrong here. When you say like when you put everything back
She
in,
may not be
not
interested
sexual,
in
what does
getting
that mean?
tied up on night one, for example.
Um, okay, do you think when we say not sexual, do you think that she has sexual fantasies?
The majority of women, of course, the majority of women have sexual
When we say
fantasies.
majority, how many women do you think have sexual
But what
fantasies?
I'm saying,
Like, it doesn't
use
have to be right,
your
like just
frame is that all women are sexual. I'm a strong, masculine, dominant, sexual male.
and
Sex is
I'm
good.
curious,
We
like
should be getting to sex as soon as possible. These are frames
how
that you
how
have.
how, how many women do you think have sexual fantasies?
The vast majority.
Like 99%, would we say, or
Gosh, I don't know if it's 99%. Are we talking about worldwide? We're including super conservative, like
yeah,
in
yeah,
Muslim
including
countries,
fucking
and
Iran, Saudi
super
Arabia.
strict, like modern Orthodox
Yep,
Jewish.
yep, everyone.
I mean, there's so much like, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm going to say yes. I believe that a huge number of women, regardless of how conservative or liberal the society they are in, have sexual fantasies, right? Some of them try to suppress those fantasies out of guilt, out of fear of some cosmic damnation or, so forth. But I do believe that the majority of people have sexual fantasies. I think it's very hard to quell human nature. That sexuality is going to bubble up in some way or another. And if it's suppressed too much, I think it can manifest into strange behavior, right? As we've seen in the Catholic Church, for example, with the pedophilia and so forth, right? Uh, so yes, I do believe though that majority of people are sexual. Like it's just look at nature, look at animals. You don't even have to look at humans, right?
Okay, so I agree. Like 99% of girls have like sexual fantasies and are sexual beings, right? Now you might have like some super small percentage like asexual people, but 99% of girls are going to be sexual. So the question then is, what's holding him back from having sex on the first night? And these are pretty well-known common beliefs. So one is they might be looking for a relationship and things will jeopardize it. They may be worried that they're going to feel used. They may be worried that it's going to be bad sex, right? Like these are very all shame, right?
We
But
can
yeah,
add we can add even
feel
more
like they're
to
going to
that
feel like
list,
it's some
right?
shame.
But I would add a few
Sure.
things to that
What else do
list
you want to
too.
add? What do you want to add?
I would
Yes.
add to the list that getting to sex quickly is not always uh, the ideal for most women. A lot of women
No,
appreciate
no, wait,
foreplay. They like buildup. Even the actual act of sex itself. Most
so hang
women
on,
do
hang
not
on.
want a guy to just pull it out and put it in them right away. They like
Okay.
foreplay. They like buildup, right?
So the other thing that's holding you back is you're saying that they might want more anticipation,
Hmm.
which would be that would go under pleasure, right?
Anticipation is in like just they're interested more in the totality of the experience, not just getting to sex as fast as possible and being tied up from a suspension ropes, like
Yeah, well, we're trying to figure out, okay, all girls are sexual, all girls have fantasies, okay? All girls want to
mhm.
have sex. We're saying, what are the things that are holding you back? So one is they might want a relationship, they think it's going to jeopardize it. Two is they think they're going to feel used and they're going to feel bad afterwards. Three is pleasure. So I guess we could add in there that if they have sex quick, you miss anticipation, you feel like it's not going to be as good. And the last one was, I forget what the last one was now, but we have those reasons, right? We would say that hold women back from having sex early.
Yeah, and I mean we could probably add more to the list, but yeah, just go ahead.
Okay. So generally speaking, these are the big ones. So all I'm doing is thinking, how can I get over these and help them deal with the girl in her mind? So the same way, if I'm on a sales call and the guy's like, "Hey, I would love to do coaching with you, but just so you know, I'm going on holidays for 3 months and I'm going to be with family or I've got work. I won't be able to actually start coaching for 3 months' time." Right? Now, I just handle that objection. That's no problem, right? We can start coaching in 3 months' time. Easy. Now, maybe I send them my Calendly and they're like, hey, these hours is a different time zone. Like, what are we going to do about this? I'll just handle that objection. So I see this the exact same way. When the girl says these are the 4 or 5 things, or maybe there's more, the reasons that like I am a sexual person, I enjoy having sex, I want to have sex, but these are the 5 things that are stopping me from doing it, right? Then I work through these. Oh, you're worried about that you're going to feel used. Hey, guess what? If we have sex and we have a good time, we have chemistry, like I'm willing to see you again. We're not going to have sex unless I'm going to willing to see you again. Solved. Now, if she says like, every time I've had a one night stand, it just felt really quick. The guy just like fucked me. He didn't eat me out. It was lazy. I didn't come, which is a lot of girls' experience. I deal with that. No, no, no. Listen, this isn't going to be like that, right? There's going to be a lot of foreplay. I'm going to tease you. I'm going to find out what you want. If you want to be tied from the roof, you're getting tied from the roof. If you don't, right? If you want like some slow tantric sex, which is pretty rare, then we'll give you that instead. Okay. If she's worried that, oh, the whole boyfriend thing, I make that very clear, right? I'm not jumping into a relationship right now. Maybe if we have a good time down the future, but I'm very picky, maybe we lead to that. So I'm very honest and open about that. The girl understands. Okay, at least I know what I'm expecting here. I'm not going to wait for the whole relationship thing. So I just go through this list, whatever the objection might be, I deal with that. And so now we're not in a state of affair where it's like, oh, we just have to wait and do this under the radar. And the way I deal with the shame is just feeling like, oops, it just happened. It's like, no, we'll just like upfront deal with that. We'll work through it. Now, there's two ways to do this. One is really bad, which is probably why a lot of guys out there, as you said, even guys with credentials that I think like half the coaches out here are fucking rubbish anyway. But half these guys with credentials probably teach that same thing. Just wait, or just like the RSD, like 2 second adventure. Let's just like 2 seconds, 2 seconds, try to get this girl home. And you just deal with a lot of LMR. Yeah, I think it's rubbish. I think there's good ways to go about this. And if you haven't experienced those good ways, you probably just aren't aware of it. Yeah.
So I think you're just underestimating a little bit though the idea that sex is not the end all be all for a lot of women, right? And this actually leads to another thing that you brought up early on. Maybe this is a good time to transition because I think we've kind of beaten these topics down quite a bit here.